been a number of wins in the past few weeks when it comes to criminal justice system and some of the biggest cases that we have seen over the past few years. And to talk about that and what happens next, I'm glad to have on the record with me Reverend Al Sharpton. Hi, Rev. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you today, Evan?
I'm doing good. It has been, I would say, maybe the past 2 or 3 weeks, and even most recently, we've got some news when it comes to cases in the Ahmaud Arbery case, Breonna Taylor case, and George Floyd case. And I kind of want to break that down and what that means. I first want to laud the Justice Department of Kristen Clark, who is the Assistant Attorney General of the Civil Rights Division, and what her team has been doing. We don't always talk or focus on that as much. I know we've had many gripes within the DOJ. Some have said Merrick Garland has been moving a lot slow, but I want to zero in on some of these cases. The first being just recently, I'm just going to go down the list. When it comes to the case in Ahmaud Arbery, we saw life sentences being handed down to the McMichaels, the father and the son, in this case. And my first question for you actually is, we heard from them and we've heard an apology in this case. This is a devastating case of how they tracked, ran him down, lied, and seemingly almost felt justified. And then we hear this apology. What was your reaction?
Well, as you know, I was very involved in that case from the beginning. And in fact, when we were attending the trial, they objected to me being in the courtroom. So I'm sitting there watching the sentencing from afar. I did not go to the sentence. And I remember that they tried to get Wanda, the mother of Ahmaud, to agree to them taking a plea and not going to trial. We would have never seen those two life sentences and the other long sentence had it not been for Wanda standing up for her son. The strength of that woman is absolutely, I think, understated. So I think that two Shiro we have in the Ahmaud Arbery case is the mother of Ahmaud, who refused to let them off the hook with a plea, even though they had been convicted in state court. And I was in the courtroom when they were convicted. Even though they had been convicted in state court, she wanted the federal case. And Kristen Clark, who pushed this through at the Department of Justice. And we've seen under Attorney General Garland through Kristen Clark, federal cases in George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and now some prosecutions, 4 prosecutions in Breonna Taylor. We've not seen anything like this in a short period of time in American history. We can, for the first time, say that we are seeing the federal government take on cases. Now, again, we don't know what the outcome of the Breonna Taylor case is, but let's remember that the state acquitted one man, never indicted the others in Breonna Taylor. He is now the one they acquitted facing federal charges, and there are 3 others that are facing charges, several others that are facing charges. So I must give this Justice Department credit for what it does. Does not mean I don't want to see more, but it's certainly a lot more than we've seen in the past.
Let's get into the Breonna Taylor case. Like you said, we have more than 2 years later, we have these Louisville Metro Police officers federally charged civil rights violations in connection with her death. And this is the first time that we are seeing officers on that federal level charged hate crime against a woman. And this is huge. I honestly was very surprised, Rev, that we didn't really hear more in the media about this story, and particularly more even coming from the White House championing what's been happening in these cases, because the White House has taken so many hits when it's come to criminal justice system. When I saw this, I actually expected there to kind of be more of a reaction coming from the White House?
Yeah, I think that the indictment in Louisville, particularly since there was no state indictment other than the one that was indicted for reckless shooting, and he was acquitted. And now again, he's indicted with the others now on a federal charge. I think it gave real reason for the White House to have really uh, messaged this out in a strong way. It's a midterm election. I, among others, have been saying that you've got to tell people, particularly in the black community, why we should vote. And this is something they ought to be using. I don't understand why they hit the mute button on these three cases.
Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, absolutely.
Yeah, it would seem to me that if I were President Biden, and I will communicate this to him when we talk, that I'd be saying, yes, we didn't have the votes in the Senate for George Floyd. Yes, we didn't have the vote for John Lewis. We were blocked by 2 members of the party, but everybody else in the party voted for it. No Republican did. But our Justice Department did boom, 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 which nobody else did. That would be a message that would resonate. Why they're not giving that message, someone would have to explain to me.
And take some of the heat off of I and so many others have been pressing for him about what are you going to do? Even police accountability, so that what he's not able to do, like you said, the Justice Department is able to do, and lauding those who are in the Justice Department working this hard on these various cases. Another case, saw you many times up front when it came to the George Floyd case, even giving the eulogy for his funeral, and now we have the last 2 officers finally charged in this case. But there was a big disappointment with the 2 officers in this case. It was Tao and Alexander King, and did not receive close to, and not even the minimum of what they could have been charged with in this case, which was very disappointing on one hand. Even hearing from Floyd's brother Felonious saying that this is an insult, that even though we see, it's not even feeling like justice in some ways.
And no, it really didn't. And for the judge to give that less than the minimum, it was insulting. And it again presses why we need to keep movements going. Because not only the thing that's disturbing to me and many in the civil rights community is that this judge gave below the minimum and it was barely covered in the meat. We didn't hear a lot about Breonna Taylor, and we did not hear a lot even about Ahmaud Arbery. Only when we are in the streets with mass mobilization do we force the so-called mainstream media. That's why AURN is so important, because mainstream media is not going to do us any favors. We have to press that, and we have to make the issue. And I think that these cases are indicative of that. The low kind of sentences given in George Floyd, the indictment in terms of Breonna Taylor, and the light sentences in Ahmaud Arbery are met with almost no mainstream media coverage. And I think that that's why we've got to not get in movements and just let it die out. You got to keep pressing, because those in power weigh that. What is public reaction? The public can't react if the public is not informed.
It's funny because when I wake up every single day, not saying that this is important, the first thing that we are seeing now is the FBI raiding Mar-a-Lago, right? And so, I mean, hours and hours of coverage. And when I see that, it really just breaks my heart that there were a few hours, besides just mentioning and saying what's happened, when it comes to these different cases. And so it is about our priorities, it is about our voices, and what really matters, and who determines what matters.
who determines what matters. And I think the real challenge is that we've got to make ourselves conscious of that we matter and not be ignored. And you can't one day have the whole world watch us say no justice, no peace, Black Lives Matter, and then we accept not mattering and not and let them have peace ignoring us. And I don't put it on society, though they're totally at fault, particularly in the mainstream media. But I put it on us because we never made progress unless we forced. And I think a lot of the young activists that were with us in George Floyd and with us in Ahmaud Arbery need to understand this is not something you do for the summer. You got to keep on. You got to keep your foot on the pedal. Otherwise, they will turn. They have dissected every inch of Mar-a-Lago about the president, former president, being served, and don't have Wanda on nothing. Talking about how did she feel about the killers of her son going to jail for life, and they almost didn't have the trial. Or the same with Polonus Floyd, not seeing him on anything, saying that why he felt offended on the sentencing on his brother's death. So I think that is why we've got to keep making noise and have black-owned media.
Lastly, Rev, in the Breonna Taylor case, one thing that was so striking that was uncovered was the lies told by police, and this isn't new for us, the lies, the report that was falsified, the affidavit that was falsified, the meeting that happened between the officers to get to collaborate their stories, what they knew. So when we talk about what we're pressing on, what we're pressing from this administration to do, even though we still don't have the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, this is yet another writing on the wall of what we've been saying about police accountability and what we must demand.
And I think that we must demand it, and I think that we must say to this administration and to this Congress and to this Senate that we will come out in big numbers only if we know those numbers are going to give us the George Floyd Police Accountability Act and the John Lewis Act. And if they were wise, and the question is, are they wise? They'd be saying, if we had the Senate, if we had more than 50, then we would do George Floyd. Since we didn't, the Justice Department did this. They ought to be using this to explain the reason why we need 6 more senators and more heads in the House. The fact that they're not saying that, it speaks volumes in their silence. Are they saying to the black community, nothing, so don't expect nothing. And nothing from nothing leaves nothing in terms of people coming out to vote. And that we cannot afford to do.
I've been thinking the same thing. What you tout, we tout everything else. Why not tout this? Anything else, Rev, you want to
No, I just think that it is clear that, none of these cases would have happened had we not had a movement. But you must have sustained indignation. And I'm glad that we have done what we did to push it this far, but we need to keep pushing because obviously, without the push, none of this would happen. And without black media, we wouldn't even know. It's like hitting the lotto and not knowing you had the ticket. We never cashed it in.
Devastating. Whew. Thank you so much, Rev. You are on the record with Ebony McMorris and Reverend Al Sharpton. Can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you.